there's a kind of joy and exuberance in making a mark, you know. I mean, God has been there since, you know, you can go back as far as you want to, right? People making marks. You know? And I think graffiti reminds us of that.
Like this one guy told me all art is graffiti, it just matters where you put it. I always live by that, that's a good idea.
I paint canvases, but not graffiti. You know, I separate the two. This is my id, graffiti, this right here. This is all their id. It's their voice, too. Graffiti is the ultimate expression of hip-hop culture. It's freedom of expression with a rush.
Do it now!
I don't know, the music kind of goes along with the artwork.
Hip-hop evolved or started about the time that we were born. You know, it just progressed as we grew up with it.
Not only is, you know, every graffiti artist out there have headphones on their head listening to something while they spray up, but even DJs out there, you know, it's all cross-breeding.
Where it needs to be. Pretty plastic cover up, stop you from speaking up consecutively. Manipulate, dug out, strung out, and duct tape, duplicate silence. Dumbfound system, filtered intelligence. Micro, knots, a loaded clip. Now-round philosophies attached to our hip culture. Bricks out, bug vultures. Keep on moving, what you gonna do with hell, wages, fractions, Scarface, the headmaster, banging balls. Loving Los Angeles balls of black, smoking soot, sprayed hooks, firmly fixed in place. A tight race has just begun. An adventure of one.
Graffiti, DJing, MCing, B-boy, break dancing. That's all the elements.
And when you sweat, I got something cold, so back off, clear up and stand by. I swung back to play some mics. The format to slang entry-level verbs coming from 81st and 3rd.
Connections with other people and other cultures everywhere in the world, like, is all through the writings on the wall.
You convey your spirit, like regardless of like what type of thing you do. You play basketball, write graffiti or whatever. You convey your spirit. People look at it like, oh, cool picture. It's something that's cool, you know what I'm saying, creative. But that's somebody's soul. Somebody's soul.
The public not only appreciates sort of the vivid colors and the characters that may be to the side of the lettering, but just the fact that there's sort of a mystical quality to it that you can't quite figure it out.
I think in terms of what people are looking at, or the script, or the language that it uses, I think it can also, there's a lot of humor. I think there's a lot of satire involved in graffiti art as well. But there's also a lot of color and form that's really beautiful. So I mean, as an art form overall, I think that it is very challenging.
That's why it's compared to sort of hieroglyphics, because there's sort of a mystery there that you have to sit there for hours or ask a lot of people to figure out what it sometimes means or says.
As a graffiti artist, it's a simple fact of using Krylon paint to like put life in something that's already there, something that you're gonna see, whether you're walking down the street, you don't have to go into a gallery to see this. It's beautiful, it's art.
Some of the works show very remarkable design skills. Some of them show an unbelievable level of virtuosity in terms of color handling. Some of them less so. Some of them still have a kind of raw element that suggests someone's really there with a paint can trying to work this out. But amazingly, I think many of the artists have reached a level of understanding a broader design And this is done on a very vast scale as well.
Talk about this. We got the things that you can't miss. We just got to talk about this. We got the things that you can't miss. We just got to talk about this. We got
Made a big mess for a lot of years and eventually got good, and eventually I'll be too old to do it once I'm really good, you know. So I guess it's like ballet, you know, but I just started art school.
I go to art school, and I just kind of started off making the stickers and posters that I repaste up and stuff. And then I just kind of, through doing that stuff, I met more people who were into graffiti, and they got me into it.
In Chicago, worked for this group called CPAG, Chicago Public Art Group. So they do a lot of murals and stuff, so I work along with them. But he did a mural with me for the group too. That's when I met him about 5 years back. Then ever since then, we've just been hooking up.
I never really was an artist. I just started hanging out with my boy Mutt back in high school, and he started showing me some sketches. I walked up the next day, showed him a sketch, and I'm gonna start painting with you.
I dance, I be a girl and stuff, and I also MC. And so I've been doing that for about 4 or 5 years now. I also do photography and stuff like that, and that's like my main focus right now. I'm just trying to like go to photography school and do that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've been doing graphic for about 4 or 5 years now though.
Right now I'm going to the Art Institute of Chicago. I like to sculpt, and I do a lot of acrylic painting.
This is instrumental hip-hop poetry. Coming to you, the core project. Yeah, will be 2001. We the people that bear witness to the events we saw. Come on my shoe as my chin drop check the present tense. Misguided evidence to circumvent or repent. But when the sound hit the ground, the thoughts were spent. Blow steam as the whole scene clears. Seeing smoke screens, journey to the center of the core frequency. Vanishing point, debris I choke. Sweltering creativity that send me other side of the most. Side by side, we got the vote. Watch patiently, filling vacancy. Tomorrow be another day to see. Flagrant beats manifest blatantly. Yo, but in this lifetime, feel the need to settle the score. Make the point, we never argue with an MC. United we stand, divided we fall. City of tiny lights, foundation, hearts of the core. United we stand, divided we fall. City of tiny lights, foundation, hearts of the core. United we stand, divided we fall. City of tiny lights.
It's real cool because everybody's like a family. It's all get combined.
And we're all just here for one reason.
I like to paint, and that's what I like to do. And if you're gonna give me a legal wall to paint on, I'm gonna paint on it. You give me an illegal wall to paint on, I'm gonna paint on it.
It always has been about the illegal too.
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes you just want to show it and express it, and you get more time when it's legal, you know? We always have that discussion with writers in the city that they're always saying, oh, you're not a graffiti artist, you're just a muralist, or you should go out there bombing and go hit the streets. Yeah, it's just, it all deals with the same game. I mean, you know what I mean? You have your bombers, you have your taggers, you have your muralists.
Artists, you have your tattooers that graph, that moving and tattooing.
Bombing is when you just go out and just hit spots that are highly visible.
When we roll out a wall, we call it buffing.
Throw up is when you go put your name up on one single outline and just bail from where you put it.
Oh, racking. Just stealing paint, supplies, or whatever.
And then a tag is just when you write your name.
Pieces means big masterpiece.
Writers, that's just your basic graffiti person.
It's all the same, just a different canvas or different area.
A lot of the kids aren't necessarily interested in the vandalism aspect of it at all. They're interested in getting their work visible. So I think to the extent you could provide them a place to do that legally, you are really helping them not have to go illegal, right? And that may be playing a real straight game, but for some of the kids it really works.
The middle of the night's there. The paint's there. I mean, 2 and 2 go together.
Welcome to the new breed.
like coal miners. From your school of hard knocks, we graduated with honors. Man, I promise you'll never find nothing better behind us. My lines cause trauma, cardiac arrest. I'm an ignorant kind of cat that keep talking with the drama. Want it hot, get your heat from your mama. Take a sign of cool off. This the new breed. Nothing of what you usually, not your usual. We move these motion like with the movies. Cats say crack, CD and cassette that you get. That ain't labeled bits and pieces on the back, cause it's whack. Taking rap, metamorphosis, forcing it off the orbit. Torture and burn it, torture it till it's turned morbid. Man, they tore it up, but we did all of what we gon' do just for it. Move forward, ain't Missouri just the perfect state to show it. St. Louis, live in the land of the crooked mother. Forget what these suckers spittin', just state your position. Take a listen to the new breed.
Welcome to the new breed. Because we know you use me. Listen to the usual.
Yeah, we represent the new school. New school fools with new rules. Here to screw you. Step in this game like new shoes. And we knowin' that you're thinking we too cool. Too cool for you suckers and thinking you're too smooth.
St. Louis is an event, a graffiti event that consists of graffiti artists coming from all across the country, usually even, you know, at least a handful international artists. And, you know, it's a 1.4 mile stretch of wall in which the riders come out and we attempt to provide them with, you know, at least a small amount of paint, buff paint.
You're gonna meet everybody. I've met everybody here. Anybody like that I've ever seen in like a magazine or ever heard of or seen trains cruise by my hometown. I met him down here and it's just like, I'm still in awe.
These artists can take days to complete a piece, and they have large crews of people. They can have 6, 8 people working on the piece together.
They really can show their best skills because they have the time.
I don't usually get a chance when I'm at home to do such work because I don't have like the free walls or whatever in the free time, but when I get a chance I take advantage of it, and usually the pieces I do here get in like lots of magazines, so it's worth my time to come down here and, you know, do something nice.
One of the coolest things, though, is when you're down there and you're with the people that are actually doing it, they're like, this is legal? you know, I mean, it's almost like they can't believe it's still legal.
St. Louis isn't an alternative. I mean, St. Louis, in my eyes, doesn't even necessarily promote the aspect of you know, guys climbing water towers or bombing trains, because it's like sort of the weekend that we ask everybody to not do that stuff.
A lot of people come down here and do some really nice stuff that might make people take notice of them more than they would have if they would just stayed in their city and done their bombing.
I can't really go and do graffiti, illegal graffiti in New York City. I'll be immediately, the authorities will come to my house about 10 minutes later.
You know, we've always got to be watching our back or running or, you know, in a rush. So it's nice to be able to just relax and, you know, hang out and do what we like.
It allows people to, you know, to treat it as almost like an art form instead of a hit and run.
A 3-day stretch is typically a lot longer than graph writers normally get because of sort of that living on the edge, not knowing how much time they have to actually do a production.
Just like some of the kids say it's not graffiti unless it is vandalism. You know, if it smacks of anything legal, it's not graffiti anymore. Others, you know, don't make those distinctions.
You don't want to be out painting on people's like little mom and pop, you know, places that, you know, they're not doing anything wrong, you know, and it's going to cost them a lot of money out of their own pocket to go and buff out what we did on their building. So you don't want to paint on, we don't paint on mom and pop stores, you know. Churches is definitely, you don't want to paint on churches, people's, you know, personal property like houses or their garages, you know, I mean, that's just ignorant vandalism, you know.
There's a kind of wonderful, naive sense that, in some of the kids' part, that maybe it's illegal, but it's also, in their mind, something that's really a kind of a social good.
In the planning years of for the 1999 event, there was a lot of lack of organization, a lot of people thinking that things were taken care of and permits just were lingering things. And what happened is just pretty much the Monday before the event, you know, the word got around Paint Louis is going to happen. The mayor freaked out and then called a press conference 5 o'clock that afternoon and canceled the event.
Freedom is the reward of men who practice moral restraint.
In fact, I met people in the 70s that thought the graffiti was they thought it was legitimate. And they were really shocked, actually. This is because I'd be in the station taking pictures or whatever. They'd come and start talking to me. And a lot of people, you know, not ignorant people. They were like shocked when I told them, if they catch me doing this, I'm gonna go to jail. There also was a need to, you know, try to get your name around. It didn't suffice to just do it, you know, 5 times. You couldn't make a name for yourself.
There's guys out there painting, you know, 500, 600, 700 freight trains a year, you know, and they've been doing it 5 years, 6 years. So that's, you know, there's guys out there with a couple thousand freight trains. Gotta love that.
You know, we sort of put our names on the train in a way that sort of tried to make our names stick out from all the hundreds of other names that were all on the subways back then. The phenomenon of graffiti in New York City began pretty much in the summer of '70, and I really didn't pick up on it until about 5 years after that. So Philadelphia, you know, had it first. You know, we put it on the trains, and New York pretty much put it on the map. You know, when we did most of our subways in the late '70s and early '80s. No, the subways are only memories. So only photos are the only proof that they ever existed. That's the irony of it. It was actually Ed Koch, the Mayor Koch, who realized that, you know, if they can't see their work, that they'll stop doing it. And so he made it a top priority to try to remove it as quick as it went on. And then they implemented basically a no-run policy for graffiti, so that if a train had graffiti, they would jerk it out of service and clean it, which was really a lot of doing. I mean, you're talking about, you know, an $80 million plan of cleaning and razor wire. They actually followed what high-security prisons use, double cyclone fences with razor wire across the top. So even if you got over the fence, there's then a gap to a second fence. So that's how the yards are, that's how the subways stay graffiti clean.
Getting in and out of the yards are sometimes difficult. Sometimes you have to hop on the trains rolling through the city kind of slow to get into high security yards.
In '89, they literally announced, like, you know, graffiti, we have won the war on graffiti, which they did simply by the simple fact that graffiti writers are ego-oriented, and if they don't see their work, like, they're like, you know, arsonists that have to return to the scene of the crime.
It's like when I paint a wall anywhere else, that wall's there. I mean, I have to, like, come back and see it. Yeah.
When we're up painting on the roof, whenever you hear freight come by, you can take a little break, peek your head over the edge, and watch your freight, and if you're lucky, you'll see one of your own.
I paint the train. If I do a shoddy job on it or whatever, it rolls away and I don't see it the next day, and here you got another one.
There's nothing worse than it. I mean, you sit and you're spending, you know, you've been painting for an hour and a half on this freight, and it's the nicest freight you've ever done, and you're like super stoked about the way it's looking, and then, you know, you've got to put your outline around it, or, you know, fill in a little 3D, or just touch up drips if there's any, you know, whatever you got to do. And all of a sudden that freight, you hear all the slack action coming from way down the yard. You hear it start banging, and all of a sudden your car just get this big jerk, and you know you're basically out of luck. Your train's gonna pull out on you. It's gonna leave.
Big part of it was hitting subways and shit, so just people kind of stuck to freights now, and it's a big part of graffiti.
great to see a train rolling by that's got something that you did on it or something somebody else that you know did on it. It's moving canvas.
Oh yeah, that's true. I've seen freights from people here from St. Louis. I've seen freights from Canada. I've seen freights from all over the world.
They go all over. They're everywhere.
That's mainly one thing we concentrate on. It's just going to do freights and try to do them top to bottom.
Graffiti, you know, like I had really no appeal to freights before I got into graffiti. I've grown to love them through graffiti.
Yeah, I like hitting freights, but it's not really for being seen. I like the surface, the metal.
You know, these hoppers, those are the freights you want to ride right there, the grain cars, because they've got the covered ends and they've got a back deck. And they're also really good to paint because of the flat, smooth surface.
We've got friends out in California that got freights coming through here, you know, that are brand new tags that are just put up, you know, and they're coming through within days. You get to see their work and how they've progressed. And you don't even know the guy's real name.
It's kind of like a big network, graffiti writers, like it's this big underground culture, and a lot of us keep in contact with each other, and we'll go out to the freight yards and we'll do what's called benching. You just go to the freight yards and sit and watch freights and just snap pictures all day long, you know, because you're going to see, I'd say on an average day you find 50 to 100 pieces in any given freight yard depending on its size. And you just go in and bench, you know, and good chances if your friends are out there painting a lot of freights, you're going to see them.
The plan was cut the record, we dealt with that. Now you feeling that? Into the rest patrol, this train bound for gold. As artists do and go, our body so strong against all laws. Receptacle to hold your belongings. On Washington, greenbacks dissolving, saltwater, sail 70s, complete Grease company. History caught up in battles like custody. This degree you must see, bumper beats, all blues, miles in the sky, never deep, bitches rule. We got all that, the buttermilk biscuit. How we taking care of business with the quickness pertain to individuals.
Sort of like a real subtle form of communication amongst the riders. They, you know, it's sort of that fascination with trains.
Done a lot of studying, like actually reading and learning about the lines of where the trains go from this yard to this yard to this yard. If they've got to stop, if they've got a crew change, if they've got to check in, if they've got to add cars, take cars away, you know, break up the freight.
I've got all kinds of maps of Union Pacifics and Southern Pacifics, and you know, just the different train lines.
We know where our freights are going to go based on what type of cars we're painting, what type of year it is, you know. And a lot of people will take flicks and send us our freights. They'll get a hold of us over the internet, or we'll just know each other from events like Paint Louis.
A lot of the graph kids in Denver hit up a lot of freights. There's like legal walls and stuff there, but most of the graph artists like spend their time doing freights and like illegal stuff.
Kids just doing spontaneously what they want to do, and you know, they love the danger, they love the illegal quality of it, you know, all that stuff.
I've never heard anyone from a standpoint of a railroad officer or a company official make any comment that they would welcome an opportunity to you know, set up some type of program to allow graffiti artists to express themselves. It's looked upon as vandalism, and it's a crime, and that's the railroad will arrest you and prosecute you for it.
Kids are dying every day because they just don't understand that freight trains aren't like a car. You know, a freight train doesn't stop, but a freight train's going to go right through whatever is in its way. You know, freight trains are slippery. If you're messing around on coal trains, they've got coal dust all over them. You know, you go up and grab, hands slip right off. You could just fall right in between the cars.
So, you know, there's a romance and an attraction to the trains. The problem is just what he said. People don't know how dangerous they are. They go at high speeds. It's heavy industrial work. You know, if you just get bumped by a train, it can be fatal.
Brian probably started drawing when he was 5, 6 years old. I mean, he just always loved to draw. When you'd be out for dinner, he was drawing on the back of the little kid placemats. You know, I'd flip them over and take the crayons and just kind of go with it. And then he became very interested in comic books. Started collecting comic books and really created his own character that he called Broman, and he just loved to draw.
He was great. We were very, very close. We'd play music together and shoot pool, and we spent a lot of time together. We were real close.
Although art wasn't a big part of the school he attended, he just always was active with pencils and crayons and pens.
Brian really, I don't think, was a graffiti artist. I mean, Brian just was a kid who loved to draw and was very creative, and you know, everything was an outlet for Brian. When Brian got into something, he did it with passion.
He was working on his style and developing his tag, which was flow, and he started out, he had a W in it, and then cut it down to PHLO.
I don't know. I think Brian found a link between things, and I think that was what his flow was all about. He had a theory for everything, and they were always absurd and funny, but they were always right on too. And he was very good at picking out the wacky little things that hold us all together. In retrospect, it's easy to idealize about him and what he stood for and what he believed in. But I think Brian, if anybody, had a sense of the way things work together.
Up on the front wall, he had painted what's kind of prophetic words there. It says surrender to the flow, and just kind of, that's what he ended up doing, is surrendering to the flow of the river and flow of life and everything else.
Brian was always really into trains and just loved trains. And for anybody to connect, you know, let's go paint on a train, I think it was something that, and we lived so close to the railroad tracks that it, to him it was just a moving canvas, and it got him into trouble. It was just a real, I don't know, I could just picture him like painting that night on that train car and just losing, you know, how when you're focusing so hard on something, you know, and that maybe you could hear that train coming, but yet thinking you've got time.
Brian that day had lunch with me and he had expressed how people needed a place to paint, and so I think in his mind he was thinking painting that day, and had kind of had the bug. And that evening he had gone to a party with some friends and ran into the fellows from Webster that he had originally gotten into painting with. And he apparently, you know, was asking, hey, let's go paint. And they agreed to take him out, show him a place that they had been. And apparently Brian had not been there before, and it was near midnight. And they walked through the park and up onto a trestle, and when you walk this area, you wouldn't know you walk up on this fairly small grade up onto the tracks. All of a sudden there's this big drop, and particularly in the dark, I think it would be very difficult to tell that. And so when there's a turn right there, and the train came around the turn while he was up there, and apparently the train was moving fairly fast, and he, you know, thought he was just going to jump out of the way of the train and jumped off the bridge. And he fell to the creek bed below, and that's where they found him later on.
That spot was pretty rough. It was definitely not a spot for kids that really didn't know what they were doing to be around.
At some point you create something and you don't want to paint over it necessarily, so now you go looking for another place to paint. After a while you run out of canvases, and then where do you go with it?
Pat Murphy brought in some sketches of his son and was telling me about how he just couldn't stop talking about Paint Lewis before his accident had happened.
Brian really loved the flood wall. Once he found out about it, he went down there several times. He started a piece down there, and he really liked that there was a place to go do it.
His parents, I don't know, just could feel it, I guess, in his soul that Paint Louis was a really important thing for him.
The city is us, no matter how far we may roam, it's in us. All cities, all streets, all home is with us. These the people that we see when we walk, stop and talk for a second, then we off. I wake up with the normal routine of getting clean. No need for creasing my jeans, I like it when they lean. Make my exit, it's the chick with the proper ghetto etiquette. How you doing? Yeah, she texts me, but she'll never get a piece. No need to carry a piece, we want peace and no killing. It's the young cats dealing to make a living like what's up? Man, I'm chilling a pound and keep drilling. Found some sitting at the bus stop girl with mass appeal. She wouldn't give me the deal when I didn't pull out $1 million in her face, and we used the same mode of transportation. Gave a nod to the driver, sitting in meditation. Surprise ride from some guy that I knew from my education, elementary. He mentioned to me, they still mention me with a quick arm extension and ring. I'm out the scene, walking, rapping the game. These people passing me strange. Some bummy asked me for change, which got me laughing in vain. Cause I'm just as broke as him without the smell and clothes. Cats can walk by tough, but I can tell they supply stop to the stove. While the clerk watch to see if I'm a shoplift. Relieved when I'm out the door. The city is us, no matter how far we may roam, it's in us. All cities, all streets, all home is with us. These the people that we see when we walk. Stop and talk for a second, then we off in my neighborhood. It's like your mind can get lost in my neighborhood. Pure chance, all cost in my neighborhood. You gotta fight your own thoughts in my neighborhood. Don't let your mind get lost.
I got involved in trying to save the event and try to address the concerns that the city had. And the city had some legitimate concerns about people vandalizing adjacent properties, going away from the wall, and not staying where they were authorized to be. So we hammered out an agreement with the mayor's office and addressed their concerns.
But we did everything from getting porta potties to trash cans, to trash bags, to dumpsters, to the permit. So we contacted all the departments of the city to make sure that they are aware that we were going to hold this thing, to coordinate with them, to for the streets people, the parks and recreation people, to just make sure they were aware, and they were really helpful.
And the Regional Arts Commission was very, very helpful, and they stepped forward to post the bond that the city was demanding for any potential damages. So.
I think that Paint Louis, our graffiti art, there's a real energy and a real focus and a real dedication to the art form that I think is often underappreciated. So I think it's important for the Regional Arts Commission support to kind of further that art form and to further an appreciation for that art form.
Kind of at the last minute, we pulled it all back together and got the thing back on track, and the mayor then went ahead and let the permits be issued. I really didn't start out to, save the world type campaign here, but I knew that Brian would really love to see the wall continue. So I just felt like it was something I had to do for him and for all the other artists out there that are probably like him and really into it. So
this year 2000 by far is definitely our most organized year. There's a lot more support and a lot more motivated people behind it.
I continued this year. We're just bringing some organization and, so we wouldn't go through the whole thing with the permit the next year, and scramble to make it up. So we get the things in place so the city would allow us to go ahead, and that's what happened.
Unpredictable melody, don't risk an impeccable parody to the affliction of a despicable enemy. Instead of me, what? The rhythmic criminal remedy. Hello, Stagway. The addictive, unpredictable melody, don't risk an impeccable parody to the affliction of a despicable enemy. Instead of me, what? The rhythmic criminal remedy. Come on now, yo. The addictive, unpredictable melody, don't risk an impeccable parody to the affliction of a despicable enemy. Instead of me, what? The rhythmic criminal remedy. Come on now. Come on.
Fresher than this.
this is great because here's a city who's like, you know, not just scared to like look it in the eye.
Over on this intrinsic, as the plot thickens, the clock's ticking. Stop listening, now we can. It's dramatic, common static, hash coming automatic. Flipping like a fanatic for acrobatic stuff, not the plastic graphic with the glass shit. Drastic measures, potent the forces, peed in inherent. They can't take that away from me. Yeah. The addictive, unpredictable melody, double risking impeccable parody to the affliction of a despicable enemy instead of me. What? The rhythmic criminal remedy. What? The addictive, unpredictable melody, double risking impeccable parody to the affliction of a despicable enemy instead of me. What? The rhythmic criminal remedy. Cool project. I said a cool project. The addictive, unpredictable project.
That's the first year I've been here. I'm definitely coming back from now on. It's a good vibe, you know, unity. And the city's cool, mad cool for letting us do this.
So. When we give the sanction that we have a wall and fill it with wild style paintings, it becomes its own kind of acceptable style.
You can do this and not have to worry about looking over your shoulder for cops. It's fun.
I came out here thinking that a lot of the graph artists were gonna be real, like, mean and stuff like that, you know, and it's a lot of love over here.
And basically, like, negotiate, you know, that's how I see it. Like, have a dialogue with graffiti. I mean, that's really progressive.
It creates something beautiful out of something that's just a concrete flood wall that is ugly on its own, and here it becomes a work of art, and it's a ever-changing work of art.
It's a community. People will paint over or leave other people's stuff depending on how much they respect their style. I like in that sense it's kind of a Darwinian art form.
So there's a kind of pentimento that when you look at the wall, it's not just 1 year old. You see the last year, you see the year before, the year before. So there's a history. It's not just a map, it's a history. Right? And to do that, you have to sort of let the year before be a backdrop for this year.
Idea number 41, rhythm number 1.
Right.
Rhythm number 1.
The plan was cut the record, we dealt with that. Now you're feeling that. The plan was cut the record, we dealt with that. Now you're feeling that. The plan was cut the record, we dealt with that. Now you're feeling that. The plan was cut the record.
I mean, there was definitely tagging and bombing away from the wall. I just think in the scale of how many artists that were there, which, you know, were hundreds upon hundreds, I think it could have been way worse.
Apparently in South St. Louis, there are a number of things hit. I don't know specifically what there was one, though. I mean, it is a gem of the city, a thing of pride for the city. The reservoir right there at Grand and 44 that somebody hit. And, you know, I mean, the thing that's frustrating is, you know, these people obviously know what they're doing, where they get exposed raw concrete, and that's better to paint on than painted, you know, surfaces, because it's harder to get rid of.
To tell your mother, your sister, to undercover thought crime. The pressure you're under will never resist. To assist, the longer they resist. Stir, shake, bound, and burn. To tell your mother, your sister, to undercover thought crime. The pressure you're under will never resist. To assist, the longer they resist. Stir, shake, bound, and burn. You're ready.
It's completely about hip-hop culture. It's completely about youth culture. And so in some ways, I feel separated from it, and I like that.
I think it's important for the Regional Arts Commission to support it in terms of it being challenging art, in terms of it being a cultural tourism destination, so to speak, and kind of an underground one at that. So those are the reasons I think it's very vital for us to do that.
I was just down there within the last week, and they're still like, I was there for like 15 minutes and at least 30 cars drove by with people of all ages looking at the wall and pointing and saying, you know, and it's with that wonder that I once had.
They had very little to work with, very little support, very little money, just a lot of hard work and dedication, and they did more for the city's art scene than most of the artists in the galleries do, as far as I'm concerned.
Many people say that when people come to town or when they have visitors in from out of town, the first thing they do is take them down to see that flood wall. And I think that it is an amazing thing to see. Artistically, I think this year, it's the best that wall has ever been.
It's beautiful, it's art, it's shadows and colors, it's caricatures, it's every way of life with the message involved, you know?
One of the many things I love about it is it reminds me why we all started doing art in the first place. You know, we didn't start doing art to make money, to have shows. Most of us started just because you couldn't help yourself, because you sort of, maybe it was just a kind of a little ego thing.
I don't know what I'd be doing if graffiti had never entered my life.
Brian had actually said to you the day he died that it's a shame that every community doesn't have a wall where people could paint.
I'm strange, blind in the ways of what you find things. Lost but I find pain, explaining why these rhymes came. It's like you gotta be half insane to read divine sane. I tell it, kinda sick in the mind. Headaches is migraine, I catch myself drifting. Barely paying attention, occasionally getting lifting. Catching myself tripping the description. Vision the bird's eye view of a building. With the feeling that living ain't all appealing. Thoughts of killing me, revealing true identity. Masking characteristics, face it, life's so extremely complicated, yet it's basic. Chicks, they fuck with your brain, like fingers touching your brain. I got no reason to live at the same, got much to gain. Adrenaline brushed my veins, I'm tired and sick of shit. Cause this ridiculous gets me vicious like sex craze, bitch with syphilis attacking. Observe, I'm disturbed by small distractions. The type to look your God in the eyes and start laughing, I question existence. Silent sitting, listening with interest, my description. I'm short with the tin of a dark Egyptian. Times I think about the reason I'm here, and I'm like, what I do, mama use birth control. Ain't my fault, some of them never got through.